Be quiet. Love you.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the 4th and Goal broadcast. It's Tuesday. We're going to recap week 5, talk about week 6, and go over our preseason predictions and see where we're at from me and Dave's prediction earlier in the year. It's also
howdy, everyone. Welcome aboard. Welcome in. Hey, brother, how's your week going?
It's pretty good because it's Victory Tuesday.
Oh, that's right. Get that cigar and that get the shades out. Light her up so you can slobber all over your win over the hapless Carolina Panthers.
Hey, no hard.
A win's a win. I understand.
A win's a win. There's a lot of things to take from that game. I'm going to get right into it real quick. Just get this out of the way. Please, everybody, pray for Mosley. What a poor dude. I'm going to start it out. I'm heartbroken. You want to hear some deja vu shit, Dave? Mosley comes back, his first game of the season, from a left ACL tear.
Yeah.
2 plays in, tears his right ACL. Here's the real crazy shit. It happened last year when he was at the 49ers in week 5 versus the Carolina Panthers. This year, the Lions, week 5 versus Carolina Panthers, he tears his other one. Can this dude catch a damn break?
Apparently not.
I feel so terribly bad. But it was a hell of a game. I loved what I seen. A bunch of Lions fans all through the week saying we're going to lose the game because St. Brown wasn't playing and
That
Gibbs
wasn't
wasn't
happening.
playing. I knew it wasn't happening. And then we come out and kick ass all game. Great play.
You guys had a Detroit Lion coming out offensive party against Carolina, kind of like Kansas City did to Chicago here a couple weeks ago. You know, you're beating the teams you're supposed to beat. And
Exactly.
that's very important because in the past, that wouldn't happen. You know, some team would come in and you'd be overlooking them and bam, you're like, what happened? 17-16, lost the game, you know, and instead you beat them down. They got back into it at the end a little bit, but it was garbage time at that point.
Oh, exactly. I also want to give a shout out to our rookie tight end. Dude's a beast.
Sam Laporta, pretty damn good.
2 TDs, played great. So that basically covers the Lions game because it's hard to brag. We all know Carolina's 0-5. Sure. So, you know, I mean, I'm not going a long session about it. It was just a good team win. I like it. We're on a roll. I got a good feeling next week heading down to Tampa. Also, just want to throw this out there before we get in real details real quick, is Dave, why are you Minnesota fans so soft? No, and I'm only bringing this up because guess what? There's a group out here. I'm not going to say no names because I'm cool with some people that I know are in this group. They're admins. But they have an admin over there that's a fucking baby. He blocked me because he was bitching about the refs, which I seen the close replay, and he had a legit bitch. There was pass interference. Player took his helmet off, and that ball wasn't tipped.
Yep.
Okay. But he went out, I'm done with the NFL. The refs are always in the Chiefs' pockets, da-da-da. So my response was, that's not the reason you really lost the game. The real reason you lost the game was because your coach challenged a stupid call, lost the timeout, and completely screwed you guys.
Yeah, they blew their timeouts in the second half. It was really dumb. I mean, I was rooting for Kansas City to win the game. I won't lie. But, you know, as, you know, with split loyalties, you know, I love both teams. It's fun to watch the two teams go at it. I thought both teams played well throughout most of the game. But for the most part, when I look at what happened to Minnesota, they can't run the damn ball. You know, they gave away Dalvin Cook in the offseason, and they could say it was for, you know, a cost-cutting measure. But there were other things they could have done to be able to keep him. They traded for Cam Akers. It's early right now, so you're not able to tell whether or not he's really going to bring something to the team. I do not like Alexander Mattison as the starter. You know, we have turned the ball over way too much, and it happened again this week. Right out of the gate on the return, okay, they fumbled the ball, you know, and here you go. Kansas City's got the ball in great position and immediately scores, you know, because you give them a short field. And so, you know, I like the coaching staff. Obviously, the defense is much improved compared to last year, but it's going to be a process. It's not all going to happen in one season. We don't know what the fate of Kirk Cousins is going to be. For the most part, he's playing fine, okay? He is not the reason they're losing games. The offensive line is not holding up. They can't run the football, and now Justin Jefferson is hurt. So the only thing I can say about that is it will force Cousins to spread the ball around now, which could be a good thing offensively. You're going to see, you know, Addison, the rookie, is going to take over as the number one guy. Osborne at number two. And this Powell kid, who I haven't seen hide nor hair of until suddenly this last week, comes on the scene and plays pretty well. And so they still have plenty of weapons, but they've got to be able to run the football. If they don't run the ball to set up the play action, then defenses can tee off on the Vikings and come after Kirk Cousins. He's getting older. We've seen in, the quarterback series, he's brittle. They go right for them ribs, and he took a big shot in this game. So, who knows how he's injured at this point, because you don't get that kind of inside access during the season, with the team. You'll only find out later that he was like, oh my God, my ribs. But as far as, the refs in the pocket of the Chiefs, this is the same old tired line that everybody has when the team that is a winning team, like it was the Chiefs now, and before that, it was Aaron Rodgers and the Packers get all the calls, and Tom Brady and the Patriots get all the calls. When he went to Tampa Bay gets all the calls because they're a winning team. Okay. Now, the guy in the booth explained it perfectly, even though the referee said, put your helmet back on. Okay. That shouldn't have been allowed. And yes, it should have been a penalty, but they still would have had possession of the ball. It wasn't going to come back to Minnesota. Okay. They would have had a longer field to go or whatever. And they ended up punting anyway, I believe. But still, okay, it's all, they called the holding in the Super Bowl. There was a hold. They called personal foul on this guy. There was a personal foul. They want them to subjectively not call calls when it's not in their team's favor.
Exactly.
That's the Bengals, that's the Eagles fans, that's every fan of every team. Okay. No one is, what should I say? They're all in favor of their team. They're homers.
Exactly.
They don't look at it from an independent point of view and be like, well, I could see that, it could have went either way or whatever. They're always going to go for their team. It's never going to change, and people are going to run their mouths on social media because it's easy to do. And so, as I posted today I don't remember if it was on my own page or NFL Renegades, the way to eliminate all of the bullshit, okay, is to have a sky judge. And the easiest way to do that is all these games are televised. Every game is televised. Okay. And so they have a former NFL referee, and usually it's a high seniority guy, a Mike Pereira. That's the first name that comes to mind. I don't know all their names.
I mean, he's already doing it for the
but he's in the booth
networks.
And he's analyzing the game, and he sees what we see on TV. Okay. It would take nothing to give him a headset. He's watching the same game we're watching, and he talks down to the guy who's the head dude. They can officiate the game just fine on the field. But if something gets missed, if it's obvious as the day is long, everybody and their brother can see it on TV. They have these expedited reviews that, you can get the call from New York real quick, okay? But they don't always do that every time. It won't slow the game down because all he's got to do is come on the thing and say, hey, guys, you blew the call. He's obviously, been pass interfered with. Everybody can see it. Change the call. And they make the right call on the field. Everybody in the stand sees it because they can see it on the Jumbotron. Everybody at home can see it on TV. And it's that quick. They make the change and you move on with the game. But they're not going to do that because us talking about it draws more eyes. Controversy leads to ratings and more money. And so they're never going to do that, in my opinion. It's kind of the same situation that it was forever in college football. Who are the two teams that should be playing for the national championship? They didn't have a playoff system. Okay, it was computers and this and that. And before that, it was just bowl games, and you hope to get the matchup you want with the best two teams playing for the title. Okay, and they wouldn't change it because It keeps everybody talking about it. It keeps everybody doing, they got the retention. They're focused on it. There's no such thing as bad press. Okay. No such thing as bad press. It's press. And
exactly.
So that's why you don't have a sky judge yet. The XFL and the USL have used it. Their game slowed down a little bit, but you got Dean Blandino right there. This is wrong. You need to change it. Boom. They change it and they move on. You know, and so no reason that they couldn't do it. They just don't want to. And so that's the part with the whole rules.
Yeah.
What do you got?
And no, that's just what blew my mind is I get why he was bitching, but I just told facts, and he literally deleted the post, made it where no one could comment on it, and then he delete me as a friend, all because I said the thing about the timeouts.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But I'm glad you bring up Justin Jefferson because I seen a post by Adam Scheffler today. I shared it in Renegades earlier. It says, don't be surprised. It's not official. It hasn't came out. This is his predictions, basically, from my take of it. And it has some possibility could be true, is he basically said, I wouldn't expect, there's a good possibility not to respect Justin Jefferson to come back in 4 weeks, to rush back, because he didn't get his contract he wanted. And he might just say, you know what? I'm too hurt. I'm going to keep sitting. I don't know how
a lot of what Adam Schefter posts nowadays is hot takes trying to get clicks. I don't believe that Jefferson will do that. It will be up to the team when he comes back. And, they'll have a dialogue. And I don't know. Obviously, he's hurt enough to put him on injured reserve. Just because he doesn't come back in 4 weeks, maybe he's just not healed up yet. But that's stirring the fire. That's another one of those, we'll get some clicks and we'll get everybody the attention on it. And so now the coach will be asked, every week, even though he's on IR, how's Justin Jefferson doing? Is he okay? Even though he's on injured reserve and there's no reason to ask any questions, everybody will be on top of that now because he's one of the best wide receivers in the NFL.
That is true. That's what I took as it, but it looked possibilities, but I'm not going to believe it until I hear something physically come out of his mouth.
Let's get to the news of the week. Let's talk injuries. We've got more than just Justin Jefferson, and you talked about Emmanuel Mosley. The first one that comes to mind for me is Jets offensive lineman Elijah Vera Tucker tore his ACL. And so he's out for the season. And so they brought in La'el Collins, the former Bengal and Cowboy, to work out for them. And they'll probably end up signing him because they need all the help they can get on the offensive line with the Jets anyway.
Yep.
I know that James Conner is hurt with the knee. They placed him on injured reserve as well. And that's one of the reasons why, and this is amazing to me, Tony Jones Jr. started 2 weeks in a row when Kamara was gone and Jamal Williams was hurt for the Saints. And they put him on waivers, and he was collected up there by Arizona, probably to take the place of James Conner.
They're going to need somebody.
And then, you've got a couple of big-time players on the defensive side for Buffalo, Matt Milano, and a defensive tackle whose name eludes me. Both of them are having surgery and are out indefinitely. They're probably done for the season. Matt Milano's a big loss for that defense. They lost one of the TE guys, in the off season. I don't remember if it's Edmonds or Edwards. One of them came from Philly. The other one was Buffalo. They both ended up in Chicago. But they both had the same initials, TE. But, they lost him. Now they lose Matt Milano, to an injury here. And Buffalo was really starting to come on, but looked bad, at times against Jacksonville. And we talked about this. Jacksonville had a little bit of an advantage. They stayed in London and didn't have the jet lag and all that other stuff, that comes along with playing a game overseas. And they dominated Buffalo in that game, Chris.
Yes, unfortunately, I did not catch that game. I wanted to. I had to go. I went out the night before. Had to help a friend out in the morning. But talked to my dad. That's what he said. He said Jacksonville just played a way better game. I kind of expected Jacksonville to. I thought Buffalo could beat Jacksonville, but like I said last week, I definitely felt like Jacksonville had the advantage by staying over there for the full week. Obviously, with the time travel, that's a big time. That's big. I'm still against sending teams to freaking Europe to play a season game. So
they're trying. They got to get that overseas money.
The crazy thing is
they're going to be doing it later in the year against Miami. They're going to play in Germany, which I think will be fun. I don't have a problem with them sending them over there. I just think that they should do what Baltimore is doing. Baltimore left Monday. They didn't wait till Thursday. Let's get over there right away so we can acclimate to the time and get over any jet lag or problems, practice, and be ready to go for this weekend when they play the Tennessee Titans.
Exactly. Also, I got some more on news as well. Jefferson got traded to the Falcons today.
Vance Jefferson, yep.
And they both swapped 25 late round picks for the deal.
I'm not surprised by this, and the reason why is they got these players that they brought in at receiver that are excelling, and they're taking time away from Van Jefferson, Tutu Atwell, and most notably Puka Nakua.
Yeah.
I can never get his name right. Okay, Puka Nakua. Okay, and they just got Cooper Kupp back off of injury. And so, they're stacked at wide receiver. So they go ahead and trade Jefferson, to Atlanta. I'm not surprised.
Also, here's some more. The Bills signed veteran cornerback Josh Norman to their practice squad.
That's to help them ease the suffering of losing Tre'Davious White, who tore his Achilles. And so, you got to bring in a veteran presence, somebody that can take care of that side of the field. He's been sitting around waiting for a good opportunity, I think. And I think he most recently played for the 49ers last year.
Yep.
And so in he comes.
Also, for you fantasy players like us, by the way, I'm 5-0 in first place. Austin Eckler is expected to play this weekend.
That's good news for my fantasy team.
And then the Eagles getting some good news is the Eagles designated linebacker Nakobe Dean foot to return from injury reserve. So he's officially back at practice. Not sure if he'll play this week or whatnot, but he's officially back at practice for the first time.
The rich get richer on defense.
Also, Jeff Wilson Jr. is supposed to be stated to his 21-day workout practice window as well. So look for him.
They're not going to rush him back. They might now. Because Devin Akane is going to go to IR. He's hurt. He hurt his knee. It was a surprise because everything seemed to be fine. The game's over. He has him check out his knee, and something wasn't just quite right there for Devin Achane there for the Miami Dolphins. And so, Jeff Wilson Jr., if they can get him back, they need him to be the backup for Mostert, who will have to take on more of the load now, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Hi to Ron. Hi to Brandon. Hello, Charles Lee. Thanks for watching. We got some comments here just to run through real fast. Victory Tuesday, of course, got his cigar.
You know it.
Yeah, the Vikings are losing the games they eked out last year, Ron. You're right about that. They won all of the one-score games they played in. And this year, they still got one-score games, which means they're in it. They just can't seem to win.
Yep. My question is, do the Vikings tear this down if it gets too bad?
I don't think so. At least not during the season. I don't see anybody trading for Kirk Cousins this year, okay? Because they know he's due a contract. They would have to sign him to a longer deal. He's not just going to uproot himself and his family and go to another team. Excuse me. For the rest of this season. And, and he's got a high tag number, when it comes to money. And so there's going to be some teams that are interested in him. And Minnesota may decide to, do some different things. There may come a time where they decide the season is lost. But I don't think that they're going to start trading away pieces or anything crazy like that. I think they'll just play out the season and hope to get the best draft pick they can, because they're going to be looking for a new quarterback if things don't work out.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm pretty sure the Vikings would try to keep Jefferson at all costs. There's nothing put past my mind that they're going to
he'll get
on the
franchised.
roster.
He's not going anywhere.
But unless Jefferson pulls that trade me card, then maybe. But I was talking more at like Kirk Cousins. If we get to the trade deadline and someone's injured and needs a QB, they might pull a trigger at that point.
I think that there are other players in the league that they would bring in that are cheaper, more affordable, and would be under contract longer. I just don't see it.
That is true.
Well, let's get to a recap of Week 5. We already talked about the Jacksonville Buffalo game. Did you want to talk about the Chicago Bears killing the Washington Commanders?
We covered the Bears on this Sunday. They played way better game than I thought they would. Let's just say that. I had Washington winning that game, hands down.
I did too.
But Justin Fields came out and he played. And you know what? The defense started letting Washington come back. But Washington just shot themselves in the foot too many times to pull that comeback. But Justin Fields went out there and iced it, got another score, sealed the deal. That was probably the best game I've seen him play in the NFL as a QB. Don't get me wrong, he played a great game against the Broncos too, and the defense let him down. But all complete to make sure he got the W. It was pretty impressive. I don't think they win many more games. That's just my opinion with how their season's been this far. But it's showing that there might be a light at the end of the tunnel. Maybe Justin Fields is starting to get it now. This hope for Chicago fans is hopefully he keeps building on that and becoming better.
Well, 34-0. Is this the end of Bill Belichick, Chris?
I hate to say it, but they used to always say Bill Belichick made Brady. I'm starting to think Brady made Belichick. I think Belichick is at the end of his rope. We might see one of the best coaches with the I don't know if he has the most Super Bowl victories. I'm sure he does. Actually get canned. I never thought I would ever be. I never thought I'd be having this conversation with you, or anybody in that matter. It's kind of crazy to really think about Belichick getting fired after everything he's done in New England.
I was really surprised by this game because this is one of those games where you got a team that's kind of reeling when it comes to, New Orleans. You don't know what you're going to get from week to week. Carr is still dealing with that sprained AC joint in his shoulder. And this is the kind of game that New England would normally win. And even though their defense played solid through parts of the game, their offense had nothing. And I was stunned at the way that the New Orleans Saints manhandled New England. Now, this is the New Orleans Saints team that I thought we were going to see throughout the year. But let's be real, they beat up on a team that had no business being on the same field with them. New Orleans is going to have to show this kind of effort week in and week out for me to start to believe in them in that division again. I still got Tampa Bay right now. I called New Orleans before the season. But, Tampa has looked so much better with Baker Mayfield. And, of course, they had a bye this week. So we didn't get to see them play against anybody. And New Orleans does this to New England, and there'll always be plenty of overreaction, to everything. I just think that New England will somehow weather the storm and still end up with, maybe 7 wins on the season. But, right now they've got a lot of problems. They've got some injuries. They're not playing well, even at home. And it's time for, the greatest coach of all time, if that's what he really is, to light a fire under the ass of his players.
To me, what's crazy is this man, they asked him, is it time to bench Matt Jones? And he literally tried to justify it's not time yet. What are you waiting for?
Well, you got no weapons. He's the best quarterback on their team. They don't have any weapons, okay? They have a bunch of B- to C+ receivers and an offensive line that can't hold the buckets of water. The defense is the best thing about the team, but they're injured in places. Matthew Judon's probably done for the season, and he was their best pass rusher. And so, and they're playing in a division where if the Jets get their shit together, the top 3 teams in that division can make the playoffs. And so, they're just not in a good spot right now.
Nope.
But let's move on to the next game. You got the Indianapolis Colts. Hang on, to beat the Tennessee Titans. The Titans played okay through much of the game, but turnovers and penalties cost them. This game, I believe, Anthony Richardson got hurt again. This time it's not a concussion. It's his AC joint in his arm, in his throwing arm. And it's worse than Derek Carr's because, he's probably going to have to miss a few weeks. And that means Gardner Minshew will be the starting quarterback going forward. Now, a bit of news we didn't talk about is Jonathan Taylor got the contract he was looking for and signed, but played sparingly. And Zach Moss went off as the running back for the Colts to show, hey, I'm here too, But, Tennessee is floundering. I think that Indianapolis is trying to ascend, but, this is about as close a game as I thought it would be.
Yeah. The Colts are another team, man. They're like that. It seems like every year they just always having quarterback issues. They get this rookie. The rookie comes in hot. And now he's hurt again. I mean, thank God they have Minshew, at least with some playing experience, to help him out from going forward. But can the Colts just have one season where they don't have to worry about a quarterback is my question. Because I feel like we've been having this conversation for the last 2-3 years with the Colts about a quarterback and injuries or playing, etc. But they got the win. And they're pulling wins out, and when maybe Minshew has some left in the tank and can keep get some more wins.
I really thought, because Minshew come from Philadelphia and so does the head coach, he was a former offensive coordinator there, that he was going to be the starter from the beginning of the season anyway. I thought that he was going to run the team for a while, let the youngster kind of learn the NFL game, and then they throw him in there about midseason and give him an opportunity, to show what he's got. But they put him in there right away because obviously in training camp and the preseason, they saw that he needed to be in there right away. And so they're going with that particular philosophy. But we're 5 weeks in. He's had a concussion. Now he's hurt his shoulder. And this, he's a mobile quarterback and he takes off. He's going to get hit and he's going to get hurt. And I feel bad for him, that he's already probably going to be missing a few games, going forward. But, Minshew hasn't played a whole hell of a lot. But when he has, I thought that he has played well in Jacksonville. He played well in in Philadelphia when he had his opportunities, and he looks like he's playing well in Indianapolis. So I think they're really not going to miss a beat. They should beat some teams that are on their schedule, but there's other teams that are just going to overpower them. While their defense is playing better this year, it all depends on that running game. And Zach Moss showed that he can do it. Jonathan Taylor, they're probably going to ease him back in over the next couple of weeks. They got a two-headed running attack there. A lot of play action passing, which is right up Minshew's alley. The Colts could surprise a few teams on the schedule over the next few weeks.
Oh, for sure. All right, moving on to
looking at the next game. I watched the whole game here between the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers, and it was a typical Baltimore Steeler game. They beat the crap out of each other. One team was clearly superior than the other, Baltimore, but Pittsburgh's defense and special teams came alive in the fourth quarter, and then Kenny Pickett to George Pickens, a matchup there, a connection that I think is going to last the test of time over the next several years, come up with a huge touchdown, to seal it. And so, the Steelers did not look good on offense almost all day. They had a hard time running the ball with Najee Harris. They bring in Jaylen Warren, and it's like he should be the guy starting. I love Najee Harris, but the way their offensive line is right now, Warren is the guy who needs to be running the football, and they need to put Harris in there for the screens and for the receiving out of the backfield type stuff, because he does so much better doing that than running the football right now. I don't know what it is, if it's the offensive line or, if he's just not being as patient as Warren is. There was a time when they handed the ball to Warren. Warren ran up there for 2 yards, stopped, everybody's moving around, and then he took off and run again and gained like 10 more yards. Harris the hole and doesn't stop. He does, he's not patient because he's not picking up the kind of yardage that he thinks he ought to. He comes from, Alabama, where the holes are gaping, and he's not getting those, here in the, for Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Baltimore, as I have said from the beginning, with Lamar Jackson's new contract, and they bring in Odell Beckham Jr., and he's been injured during the season. They lost J.K. Dobbins early on. I think that Baltimore they're a fraud, and that's not because I've got a grudge against the douchebag from South Carolina, from this last week. I just think that they're not as good as they want to give them credit for. This is going to be Baltimore is going to the Super Bowl. They struggled against Houston. They lose to Indianapolis. They lose to Pittsburgh, that obviously doesn't have a very good offense. Okay. They beat up on a wounded ass Cincinnati team and think they're hot shit. I just don't see it in Baltimore. And I think that they better get the wins where they can, or this is going to be one of those teams that misses out on the playoffs, because Cincinnati looks like they may have righted the ship this last week. And, you've got Cleveland's going to get Deshaun Watson back. They have looked pretty decent, this year. Yes, they've got a few losses. All the teams have a couple at this point, except for the very best teams in the league.
Yep.
And so, I think Baltimore better win some games, over the next several weeks, because they're going to be in trouble when they play Miami and they play, teams of that caliber. When they play San Francisco, they're going to get destroyed. Okay?
Hey, they might get destroyed in 2 weeks when they play Detroit.
Yeah, that's another one. They're going to be in trouble. They've got a tough schedule ahead of them, so they better win. They should have won this game, and they didn't. They're in for some hurt.
I'm actually really excited for that game because I want to see how our defense holds up to that. But right now, I'm focusing on Tampa. Can't get too ahead.
Yeah, we talked about Detroit versus Carolina and them putting the hurt on them. So we'll skip on to the next game. After Houston won the game against Pittsburgh last week, I was a believer.
Me too.
They had done well against Baltimore. They had beaten Jacksonville. They lost a close one to Indianapolis, but they beat Pittsburgh, and they put up 30 points on that defense. And I was like, man, there's no way they don't go into Atlanta and win, because Atlanta has looked terrible over the last couple of weeks.
Yep.
But Desmond Ridder came alive in this game when they needed him to, and they go down and kick the field goal at the end to win the game. It was a really tight one.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, it was a really tight game. I was watching that. I was also switching around due to fantasy purposes Sunday. But yeah, I gotta give the credit. I gotta give credit to Atlanta. They got a W. I had Houston winning. I thought Houston was going to have a really good chance to go in there, and they snuck a tight one out. And you know what I mean? And Atlanta's a decent team. They have fell off the last couple of weeks. I thought they were going to be a little bit better than they were prior, just for the fact that they started off the season pretty damn good, and they fell off a couple of weeks. So I was kind of leading to, Texans coming in there, and they found a way. They dug deep, and that's a good sign to see how Ridder and how that team to dig deep in a game like that and get the W. So I don't really expect much from these two teams this year. I do like. I've been following Texans at the last two big wins, and I think they got a good young QB. Matter of fact, I also want to give them a shout out. I was reading an article on what's, God damn it, CJ Stroud has been hosting the whole team, like the whole offense, I guess, to the whole team for dinners at his house. And he's bonding with his team. He's making good relationships. Gotta give credit. Texans, maybe not this year, but next year, they could be fighting for a wild card, I think, if depending on how this year shapes out.
Well, I know they got Carolina fans wondering if they took the wrong quarterback or not. That's for sure.
I would have to say, yeah, they did.
Sorry, I lost you there for a second, and I had to redo something, but
you're good.
At least it didn't kill my whole screen. Well, Miami rebounds from their loss to Buffalo, and they take advantage of the New York Giants, who, obviously not the team that they were last year, a playoff team. They've looked bad at times. They allowed just tons of sacks against, Seattle on Monday Night Football last week, and then they come into they come into Miami, and Miami does what Miami does. They ran it down their throat. Devin Achane had a big run. Mostert with a couple of big runs. Of course, Tyreek Hill down the sideline. They showed off their firepower and pulled out a pretty good win right there. But here's the game right underneath that. The Cincinnati Bengals. I really thought this could be the death nail for the Bengals if they lost to Arizona. And early on, it looked like Arizona was going to hang with them. And then Jamar Chase went off. Okay, he had like 15 catches, tons of yards, big touchdowns. And, Cincinnati, I think, has found what they were missing. And hopefully, if Joe Burrow is healthy, moving forward, we'll see more of this kind of action from Cincinnati. I'm starting to think that the Arizona players are starting to realize, even though they got that nice win against Dallas, that, they're not going to be one of the playoff teams out of the NFC.
Yeah. But you still got to give it up to Josh Dobbs. Dude's been playing great, especially with getting there right before the season. He tried his best to keep them in this game, and for a little bit there, they were in this game. But like you said, man, Jamar Chase, if anybody had his ass on their fantasy team, I know you're probably smiling ear to ear right now because that dude put up almost 50 points in my league alone. I know some leagues score differently. I'm sure he did hit 50 in other leagues out there. But you got to give it to the Bengals. They're playing for their playoff lives right now. And they really stepped up big. I know it's against a crappy team, but I don't think is 100%. And he was able to find the strength to throw the ball. We seen him the week before. And to me, it seemed like he could barely throw the ball 20 yards down the field, if you ask me, from the week prior. So to see him bounce back and actually slinging the ball and see what they actually did, maybe he got to the point where the pain's not getting to him. He's found to where he can throw the ball and get down the field. And for Bengals fans, hopefully you see them play like this week in, week out from now on. Because if you turn around and lose a couple more games, your season's pretty much you might as well just nail your coffin shut for playoff hopes.
Catching up on some of our comments here, excuse me. Ron says that, Miami was a no-brainer over the Giants. The Giants are playing horrible, and they've got a killer schedule ahead. He doesn't see a lot of wins, and I got to agree with him there. Yes, we're remembering Cincinnati played against Arizona, even though Arizona's better than we thought they would be. But, you got to win these types of games. They can't all be, against, great opponents. You can only beat who's in front of you. And Cincinnati needs to continue to do that if they want to get back in their division.
And I just want to respond to that comment real fast. Ron, you bring up a good point, bro, but you got to remember, look at the Cardinals games. Look at every game they've played. They've gave pretty much every team they've played a run for their money. They have not went in there and just been an easy pushover win. Now, I get Cardinals are a bad team, but, they've, to me, played pretty damn competitive for being as bad as they are. I mean, our preseason prediction was a possible 0-17 for them. And here they are. They beat Dallas. They almost beat the Giants. Who else struggled with them for a little bit?
Washington. They got beat down by LA.
I mean, they're going to have the games where they get blown out. And no one expected them to hang with San Francisco. But, these games, especially, like a struggling Cincinnati, I thought they could pull the upset there.
Philadelphia and the Rams, and I thought this could be an upset by the Rams. And, for a little while, it sure looked like it could be. They played the Eagles really tough. Cooper Kupp comes back, and, the Rams were firing on all cylinders early on. But it was basically a war of attrition. Both teams had some injuries later on down the stretch. And then, Philadelphia is just the better team at this point. And they imposed their will in the fourth quarter to win the game. One of the two undefeated teams in the NFC, or in the whole NFL. You got the Eagles, you got the 49ers, the two teams that made it to the NFC Championship game last year. They're the last two standing as far as undefeated teams.
Yeah. I mean,
Jets and Broncos. This here was the Nathaniel Hackett Bowl. Sean Payton ran his mouth, for the season about how it was the worst coaching job ever. And I'm starting to think that maybe he sees that it wasn't all just the coaching and it was the players also. The Broncos were down 24-21 late in the game, and Russell Wilson throws it away. And the Jets end up with the 31-21 win on the road. And, their offense looked not bad, when it comes to the Jets. Brees.
Did I lose him? Think I might have lost him. We'll see if he's back. Yeah, I think I lost him, so till I get him back here. The Jets, Broncos definitely gonna have to do more roster overhaul.
It did it again to me.
There's no questions about that. But let's give it up for Zach Wilson. Last 2 weeks, he's figured out. I think he's starting to figure out where he's comfortable throwing the ball. The week prior, you seen him moving out of the pocket more. I felt like he did that this week pretty good, moving out of the pocket, getting comfortable, getting away, making plays. And for the Jets, they got a good defense. And this is what we've been hearing a lot of reports about the locker room possibly getting ready to blow up because Zach Wilson. And here's back-to-back weeks. Zach Wilson found a way to get the game won. I'm not saying he's playing like Tom Brady or anything, but, he's found a way to get 31 points this week to get the game win. And that's what you need for a kid that a fan base ran through the mud last year. He has very less confidence. I mean, he goes last year as the starter. It goes bad. He gets benched. The crowd, tears him down, pushes him in the mud even further. Then all of a sudden, off season, they trade for Aaron Rodgers. Then the kid got to sit behind him, realize he's not going to be the starter. I don't care how long you played this game or how long you've been in the league. You get in a position like that and somebody just takes your job overnight from you, you're not going to have too much confidence. And then to put him in the spotlight right away after 4 snaps into the new season and say, hey, kid, it's your time to shine, it takes time. They had a first couple weeks with them, but he got 2 wins, and this is what the kid needs to build confidence. And if the Jets keep getting better week in, week out, they could be a team fighting for a wild card spot, and they could be dangerous. And then if Aaron Rodgers is right on his predictions, then you might have to deal with Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs, possibly. So,
yeah. And I'm sorry I got cut off again by the whole computer situation. I don't know what its problem is, but I was just about to say, with all the running by Brees Hall, that opens up the play action passing and makes things a lot more comfortable for Zach Wilson. And that's why they played well against Denver. Ron says, well, it just kind of proves how bad Denver is. Well, there's no easy wins in the NFL, okay? And we'll see that on Thursday night. The Broncos always play the Chiefs tough. We talked about the Chiefs against the Vikings, earlier in the program here. The thing that I was surprised about in the game is I thought that, Kansas City didn't run the ball nearly as much as they had been doing over the last couple of weeks. I thought they would run it a lot more, but they managed to go into Minnesota and win the game against a team that has weapons and whose defense is improving. But Kansas City's defense, through 5 weeks, has not allowed more than 20 points in any one game. They have less points allowed this year than they have in any season going back 7 or 8 years. And so, the defense is really starting to come on this year. They got a lot of good young players, which is good for them because, they got those high-priced players on that team that they got to keep paying. And there's some of them young defensive players that are coming up for contracts this next offseason. Chris Jones is going to want to get paid. Yes, he came back for this year, but it may be his final run. L'Jarius Sneed and Trent McDuffie are showing they're one of the best cornerback duos in the NFL before the injury, which happened in the second half. Justin Jefferson had less than 30 yards receiving in the game.
Yep, they definitely shut him down.
And then, of course, San Francisco annihilated Dallas, so we can laugh at Dallas now. There's a lot of haters. I'm not a Dallas hater. I believe they are America's team because of the ratings that they garner every time they're on primetime television. But San Francisco had their way with them. I think San Francisco proved that they are the best team in the league right now. It doesn't matter that they've got Mr. Irrelevant at quarterback. The defense is playing lights out. They have all the weapons they need around him. Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, and, of course, George Kittle, who broke out with a big game. He's kind of unsung. He's always the blocking tight end, and then they'll throw him a few bones in a game like this, to show what he's capable of from time to time. And so, there's your breakdown. You got anything on Dallas, San Francisco?
Yeah, actually, I truly do. Dallas has to ask yourself questions. What's going wrong? Because right now, it feels like Dax is having a midlife crisis back there as quarterback. He's not played. He did not show up in that game. He threw, 3 picks, was it?
Yes. But 2 of them were receiver causes interception. Okay. That's a statistic that I heard on the Dan Patrick show this week, an RCI. Okay. Receiver causes interception because the passes were on target. They just tipped them or didn't get their hands on them like they should have. And the next thing you know, the other team's got it.
Yeah. Now I did share, I can't think of the announcer's name, but it was on Sunday night.
Mike Tirico.
And he clearly said, Dak sucks. He's not a top 10 quarterback. He's a mediocre quarterback, and you're seeing it. And he said he believes there's a good chance you see Trey Lance before the season's done with.
Well, if they keep losing, of course, you got to find out what you got in your backup quarterback. The cap hits over the next 2 years for Dak Prescott are astronomical. You're looking at $59 million next year on the contract he's got. If he doesn't renegotiate that contract, this may be it for him. This may be it for him. They've waited around. They gave him the big contract he wanted, and he wants more long-term stability and security and everything, but you got to have the cap room for other players on the team. Micah Parsons is going to want to get paid big money. They're going to want to keep him. Trevon Diggs has got that ACL, so he's going to come back and have a year to show that he is, what he was before. He's going to want to get paid. And like Kansas City, just like other teams that are winning organizations, you can't pay everybody. And at some point in time, Dak Prescott will not be the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. It just depends on if they decide to move on from him at the end of this season or in 2 years. Depends on how it goes, with the team. They have to be a winning team. Yes, they got punched in the mouth this week by a superior team, but it's early in the season. It gives them an opportunity to work on the things that they are not good at. It gives them an opportunity to do some things that will get them over the hump the next time they meet. And so, San Francisco can rest on their laurels, or they better continue to get better, because other teams are going to be trying to get better as well. Okay. And so, there's the breakdown for this week's, week 5. We had the Monday night game, which was, Green Bay and Vegas. And I had Vegas winning the game. The turnovers by Jordan Love were, what cost them that particular game.
Yep. I mean, young QBs are going to make mistakes. That's going to happen.
Rod says, thank you, Raiders.
I'm happy the Raiders. I was rooting for the Raiders, even though
you don't want the Packers to win. This opens up another game, where Detroit's further ahead in the division. And, you don't want to relinquish that top spot. And it doesn't look like you're going to, based on the way the other teams in the division are playing. You got nothing to worry about as long as they just play normal from this point on.
Exactly. I mean, what I mean is, of course, for positioning and just to get, further in the division, of course, I was rooting for, the Raiders. But in real talk, I had Green Bay winning that game in my pick'ems because I didn't have much faith in the Raiders. It just seems like every time I thought they're going to win a game, they've lost. So I went with the Packers, and you know what? I didn't win pick'ems in the group this week, and I'm okay with that. But Love is looking at as a decent QB. I think he's going to be all right. But, there's going to be games that he makes some mistakes and you lose. It happens. That's just playing with the young QB. I mean, because even though he's been in the league for a few years, this is basically still his rookie year because he hasn't played real football in the NFL in 4 years. This is, his first time.
Well, Ron's pipe dreaming that he's going to get Max Crosby if they decide they're going to, do a fire sale in Las Vegas.
There's been a lot, not really big, I would say big rumors, but there has been rumors floating around with possible Lions trade for somebody. I think we trade. It might probably be cornerback. I don't really necessarily see us going defense end, but who knows? Jerry Jacobs has been playing pretty good. Mosley came back, took his spot back towards ACL. Jacobs comes back, takes that spot right back, gets a pick, plays a hell of a game. So maybe the Lions just bring up Stephen Gilmore and a couple people from the practice squad that showed promise in preseason. And then maybe they go sign Greedy Williams in free agency. Maybe, but you know what I mean? If the Lions decide that they're going to trade for Max Crosby, I ain't going to be pissed.
Well, let's take a quick look here real quick at I have a graphic here that is the current standings in the NFL, along with our preseason predictions from the end of the year or whatever. Okay, and so we've got, if you look here, we've got the Miami Dolphins are in first at 4-1. I had Buffalo predicted to win the division. It's still early, but they're on track. The Patriots, I don't think they're going to make it to 7 wins. I just don't think they're going to make it to 7 wins. The Jets, probably not going to meet expectations. They'd have to really come on, after already having 3 losses. Looking at the AFC North, Pittsburgh is in the lead right now, virtue of their win over the Ravens, and the Bengals are in the cellar, but I don't think that's going to stay that way for very long. Baltimore in second, that's where I had them, before the season. But like I said, they got to win games that, they're supposed to win. And, it just feels like that they're not doing that right now. In the AFC South, Jacksonville, right where we thought they'd be. Indianapolis, a lot better. 3 wins. I didn't think they'd get 3 wins all year, but all the rest of these teams are really above expectations when you think about what we thought of them before the season began. I would be stunned if more than one team out of this division makes the playoffs after we downtrodden it, before the year. But, it's early enough that anything really can happen. Kansas City, of course, in the lead in the West. Chargers right behind them. And they've got a matchup coming up here, in several weeks. The Raiders, coming off that win, that's the cellar, and Denver is in the cellar right now. And then, we'll go over here to the NFC. And in the NFC East, I had Dallas, winning the division. It sure doesn't look like that's going to happen now. It's going to be Philadelphia. They're just too good a team. New York and Washington further down. I feel like Washington has shown us some things. They played Philadelphia so tough. They beat Denver, which it turns out, it was in Denver, but, it wasn't, they're not a good team. They struggled with Arizona. Yeah, you just got to kind of, it's just kind of hang around and see what they do. I feel like they have the pieces in place to be a better team than their record shows.
They just need that
what your record
experience.
is.
They just need that experience.
Do what?
They just need the experience.
Yeah.
Sam Howell looks like he's going to be a decent QB in the league. It kind of reminds me of Derek Carr a little bit. I don't know, just kind of how he plays. But he can sling the ball. They can make plays. I just think they're getting held back with his development a little bit. I think it but depends, because when they come out of the gate, hot, fast pace, playing up the tempo, they're a hard team to beat. But if he comes out slow in the start of the game, like against the Bears, then they're not playing their game. And that's where I think where he's at. He got to get to that level where he can come in week in, out, sling the ball, start at a fast tempo, But next year, I would think Washington could be a real contender in that division.
Then we go to, the NFC North, and Detroit's right where, you want them to be. Green Bay and Minnesota are flip-flopped from what we thought in the beginning of the season. And by virtue of that loss last night, you got a 2-game lead in the division now. And Green Bay does not have a game this week. They are on a bye. But, as we move forward here, you look like you're not going to have any trouble with these teams, taking the division away from you. In the South, I had New Orleans, like we talked about. Carolina is, doing what I thought Carolina would do. I was not a fan of Bryce Young. I said I liked C.J. Stroud, and I feel smart really now about that with Houston. It's a mixed bag in the NFC South. Tampa Bay is coming off of, a bye, and so, that's why they have the lead in the division. New Orleans and Atlanta are hanging in here. All these teams were below 500 last year after the season ended. And so to see them all, above 500 right now, the top three anyway, is really a surprise to me.
Yeah, because it could be. I'm watching that division the rest of the year because that could be kind of like like the NFC East a little bit. Usually, maybe not this year, but look at last year. You had the NFC East. At one point, all teams were in a playoff position. This could be that division this year, where you could have three teams literally fighting for the last wild card spot. I think it could be pretty exciting, especially if the Panthers keep moving forward and becoming a better team. The Saints, I expect to be there towards the end. And Baker's still playing great football right now.
Well, the NFC West is exactly like we said it would be. Other than the one win by Arizona, which was a stunner over Dallas, everything seems to be cooking right along in the NFC West, Chris.
Yeah. I mean, we're pretty much right on point with that. We knew the Seahawks would be about the second team for sure. We knew the 49ers would be the number one team, and we weren't right. We weren't wrong in that prediction.
Well, let's take a look at our preview for week number 6 now, starting with the Thursday night football game, the Denver Broncos at the Kansas City Chiefs. I want to say this should be an easy win for Kansas City, but like we talked about earlier, there are no easy wins in the NFL. This is a division rivalry. The Broncos have not won against the Kansas City Chiefs in like 8 years. And so they're due, for a victory. I just hope it doesn't come at Arrowhead.
This is what I'm going to say. It really depends on Sean Payton's defense, or not Sean Payton, I'm sorry. It really depends on Travis Kelce. And why I say that is because if Chiefs don't have Kelce in that offense, and Sean Payton can find a way to make it a hard game for those young receivers, they could. And if Russell Wilson can just have a decent game on offense, they might be able to sneak one out. I don't expect it. I expect the Chiefs to win this game, hands down.
Ron says he doesn't expect the Chiefs to lose either. I appreciate that, Ron. He also said to keep an eye out for Atlanta in that NFC South.
I mean, fair enough. Real quick to that, I'm not saying we shouldn't, but Atlanta got to start showing me a lot more before I really feel like I should be watching them. Just because I still think the Bucs and the Saints battle out for 1 and 2, but anything's possible. But like I said, I expect the Chiefs to win this game. But if Travis Kelce can't go, to me, it leaves a window possible for upset. I don't really have much faith, even without Kelce, that Sean Payton and Russell Wilson are going to find a way to do that, though, because all I've heard is Broncos country, let's ride, and all I've seen, and all I've seen through a year and a quarter is let's dive. Pretty much.
I got the Chiefs beating the Broncos on Thursday night football. Moving on to Sunday, this is one of those games that's tough to pick. I think Baltimore should win the game, but, Tennessee has this ability to play so tough defensively that they give their offense a chance. And if Derrick Henry gets on a roll and he runs over Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen, Tennessee can win this game. But they got to lean on Derrick Henry, and he has got to be able to get the yardage that they need because they're not going to get it through the air. I'm going to go ahead and take Baltimore in this game, Chris.
Oh, I'm going to go right there with you, but I will say this. Defense, the Titans might suck right now. The Titans, because we predicted that. But that defense is still can win games. And even though I agree with you, Ravens should win this game, but it really depends. If the Tennessee defense can show up and get underneath Lamar, I think they could pull a steal out, but they need some help from their offense. So it really depends. Baltimore should win this, but I won't be surprised if it's an upset again.
Ron reminds us that don't forget this game is in London, and Baltimore Ravens left Monday to go to London. Tennessee doesn't go until Thursday. So another added reason to pick Baltimore. Moving on to our next game, we've got the 2-3 Commanders at the 3-2 Atlanta Falcons. And, on paper, I want to take Washington in this game. Washington has had 10 days to get ready for it because they played on the Thursday night game. And they're coming off of an embarrassing loss to Chicago, whereas they just played so rough and tough against Philadelphia the week before. I think that they were worn out. I think that they were, they just had worn themselves out against Philadelphia. They had the quick turnaround to play against Chicago, having the extra time here. I know the Falcons just beat Houston, but we have to remember it's Houston, okay? While our expectations of Houston are starting to rise, I'm taking Washington to beat Atlanta in Atlanta.
I want to take Washington as well, but to me, this game's going to come down to who plays better at quarterback. I'm going to go with Sam Howell because I feel like Washington's had 10 days, like you said. I feel like they're going to want to bounce back. But if Ron is right and we should pay attention to Atlanta, then they should give me a good reason this week why I should pay attention. Because if they win this game, they got my attention in that division. They lose this game, they're going to be 50-50 to be there at the end of the division. Because to me, you're 3-2, they're 2-3. You're at home. This is a game you should be able to win. No questions asked. But that's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be one of the more exciting games this weekend and the 1:00 schedule. My game will start at 4:25, so I'll be watching.
1-4 Minnesota Vikings at 1-4 Chicago Bears. The Bears broke out, got their first win of the season against what I think was a roughed up Washington team, although it was in Washington. Okay. And, the Vikings come off of a loss against Kansas City. They've lost Justin Jefferson. I think this is a coin flip of a game. And even though I'm a Vikings fan, I'm telling you, I'm taking Chicago to win this game. I think they're going to win this game on the strength of the Bears offense is going to, have some things for Minnesota. Justin Fields did not do a lot of running for a touchdown against Washington. I think he'll continue to try to get the ball down the field to DJ Moore and to Cole Kmet. They'll run the ball. They're going to have to go to Rashawn Johnson because Herbert is injured. And but I see Chicago coming out of there with the victory. They're playing at home. they're coming off their first win of the year. They need to keep getting these wins if they want to save their coach's job. I think Kevin O'Connell is safe in Minnesota no matter what happens. But like I said, 10 days to prepare. I'll take Chicago.
I'm going to lean towards Chicago because I just feel like Kirk could really struggle with no JJ. But it really depends. It really depends here on the Bears and Justin Fields. Justin Fields has had a third game straight, no mistakes. He has to be comfortable throwing the ball, because if he's not comfortable throwing the ball Sunday, then the Vikings could easily take that game. But as long as he shows up, he's had 10 days. He's looked a lot better throwing the ball the last 2 weeks. So hopefully, for his sake, because in his mind, he should be probably worrying about his job more than his damn coach's job and trying to stay in the NFL as a starter than losing a starter job to go play backup or third string somewhere else. So this is definitely going to I think this is a game to really pay attention to Justin Fields and see how he comes out.
The 3-1 Seattle Seahawks go to Cincinnati at 2-3. And I got to be honest with you, I'm looking forward to this one because I think Seattle is going to walk all over Cincinnati. I love the way they're playing defense this year. I love the running game that they have. Kenneth Walker III, and Zach Charbonnet, the two of them, they can make it happen. If Geno Smith plays mistake-free football, Cincinnati has been injured. The games that they've been managed to win this year, the two games were Arizona, okay, and I'm at a loss. The Rams, okay?
Yeah.
They beat those two teams, and those two teams were not at full strength. They're injured, okay? And they're not that great of teams, whereas Seattle is a playoff team. They have a legit defense. They have plenty of weapons around Geno Smith. If the Bengals win this game, Joe Burrow is a god, okay? I just don't see him dragging them to a victory against Seattle in this game. I got Seattle Seahawks.
I'm leaning to Seattle. They had a whole bye. I had a whole bye last week. Plenty of rest. I expect them to come out ready to play because, they're still playing for something to prove over there. And this is a way to do it. You got a chance to end a really good team's hope on trying to make it back to the playoffs, or at least damper it even more than what it already is right now. But it depends on Joe. If he can come out there and play like he did last week, keep that momentum, it's going to be one hell of a game. But I'm still favoring the Seahawks. 49ers against the Browns, 5-0, 2-2. I'm going with the 49ers in here, but if Deshaun Watson comes back, it's a possibility that the Browns might sneak a W out of here because the 49ers are going to have to lose sooner or later. It's bound to happen, but my favorite in this game is the 49ers.
This is a sneaky game right here. You got the Browns. They're coming off of a bye. They know who they're going to be playing. They're playing at home. And you got Deshaun Watson, who's going to be back and playing. Okay. They've already know that they've got Ford at running back, who does a decent job running the ball. They brought in Kareem Hunt, who should be ready and at full strength now after the bye. But I think the key to this game for Cleveland is the fact that they have a defensive coordinator in his first year there with Cleveland. He's a tough guy. He's a real, he game plans so well I love Jim Schwartz as a defensive coordinator. And he has an aggressive team. He's got plenty of playmakers on defense. And I just think that if there's a team that might be able to slow down San Francisco that's kind of under the radar, this Cleveland team might be the one to do it. But I'm going to take the 49ers in this game as well.
Totally agree with you there.
We go to the 3-2 New Orleans Saints coming off of a blowout over the New England Patriots versus the Houston Texans, who narrowly lost to Atlanta. Now they're playing back in Houston, so they'll have an opportunity to be playing in front of their fans. You know, I like what I've seen out of C.J. Stroud. He doesn't turn the football over. I don't think they're running the ball enough. And they're going to have some problems because New Orleans Saints has a good defense. This is the game where C.J. Stroud finally turns the ball over. I'll take the New Orleans Saints to beat Houston in Houston.
I'm rolling with the Saints too, but I will say this. To me, this game is a must-win for the New Orleans Saints. You lose this game, the Texans hold the tiebreaker. And if the Texans go on a run, could damper a little bit. Not saying this is going to happen. I'm just saying C.J. Stroud, the last 3 weeks has played great. They lost a close one in Atlanta. It happened. But with the Saints, to me, if I'm a Saints fan, this is a must-win for the Saints, even though they can still beat out the Texans before the season's out. I'm just saying you're behind Tampa Bay, so you're already trying to play catch up in the standings. So if you win this game, you only got to worry about one team above you, not two teams. So even though I think the Saints do win this game, don't let it become a trap game is all I'm saying. Because then it puts you in a spot, now you're fighting with two teams for playoff hopes, even though you should still get in the playoffs before Houston. But you get this young team confidence.
All right, we're moving on to the Indianapolis Colts and the Jacksonville Jaguars. A battle of the AFC South, where the Indianapolis Colts are 3-2 and the Jaguars are 3-2. And so this is for first place in that division. You know, ahead of Houston and ahead of I'm drawing a blank. I'm so stupid. I'm having a problem here. Tennessee. Anyway, you know, because Tennessee is not a very good team. Houston is starting to have that come up value.
Yeah.
And, you know, if they manage to beat New Orleans, you know, they'll be right in the thick of it here with the loser of this game, the Colts and the Jags. Now, Jacksonville has already beaten Indianapolis in Indianapolis earlier this year. But this time it's going to be, you know, Gardner Minshew at the helm instead of Anthony Richardson. And Jacksonville is coming off of a couple of really good wins out in, you know, England. They return home to play a division rival. And the Colts always have trouble against Jacksonville. I like Jacksonville to win this game.
Same here. I expected it. If you can beat Buffalo, you should not be losing to the Colts. Also, I want to apologize to everybody. I just realized the Texans and Saints are not even in the same division. I had a complete brain fart in that one. I always get confused with the AFC South and the NFC South.
We got the Carolina Panthers and the Miami Dolphins in the slaughter game of the weekend, Dolphins should easily win this game. I don't see, there's no way even if they overlooked them, there's no way that the Miami Dolphins lose to Carolina this week. Yes, Carolina's got a nice defensive front, but they don't have a secondary like they're going to need against Miami. And if Miami starts chucking it down the field, they'll start devoting more players to that. That'll set up the run. We'll see a lot of Raheem Mostert, Jerry Wilson Jr. if he's back off injury. And, Dolphins all the way here, Chris.
Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind.
Ron says they may put up 70 again.
I think if they put up 70, that just means Mike McDaniel's an asshole.
Battle of the old Belichick-y boys here. The Patriots at the Raiders. Last year, the Patriots and the Raiders played to a tie near the end of the game when Jacoby Myers throws the ball backwards towards Mac Jones in an attempt to keep the ball alive. The Raiders pick the ball out of the air, kill Mac Jones, and run for the touchdown.
Yep.
This year, Jacoby Myers plays for the Raiders. Chandler Jones, who grabbed the ball and ran it in for a touchdown, no longer plays in the NFL. But Mac Jones is still the quarterback for the New England Patriots. I'll take the Raiders at home in this game.
I'm going to go with the Raiders because for some reason, Belichick loses to a lot of the coaches that leave, at least here and there. Matt Patricia blew him up.
Yeah, they have a rivalry, but they always try to beat the master, at his own game. And these two teams struggled with each other last year. And I think that the Raiders will get over the top this year with Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback instead of Derek Carr.
The Raiders should win this game. But, it is Josh McDaniels. And he didn't beat Green Bay convincingly either. He struggled, if you ask me. So he's got, to me, that defense, he got to have that offense playing the A game. But like I said, I'm still going to go with Raiders because I don't have trust in Belichick in his offense.
Well, let's talk about how the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to stop David Montgomery and force Jared Goff to throw into coverage. And one gets picked off in return for the touchdown, and somehow Detroit, who we've been praising for weeks on end, loses to Tampa in Tampa.
I don't think that happens, but hey, they might stop the run, but if you look at Goff's numbers right now, he's playing top 5 in the league. So for them to stop the run, that could cause us to lose. I'm not going to sit there and say it won't. But do I trust Goff in a situation of throwing the ball? Yeah, I do. St. Brown will be back. The rookie tight end's been playing good. You got J-Mo back. You got what's his name? Josh Reynolds playing fantastic football. He showed up big last week. He showed up big a couple in the KC game as well. I think we'll be all right.
I kid you, of course, but this is going to be a tough game.
And for sure.
One of the main reasons I think it's going to be tough is because one of the weapons that Detroit has had is not going to be available, and that's Jahmyr Gibbs. Gibbs is injured and probably out for this game. And so they'll have to rely even more on David Montgomery to run the football. And
what if I told you Gibbs is going to be back?
I won't believe you because I just read that he wasn't going to play. So anyway, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have played tough, against all of their opponents this year. They've gone into Minnesota and won in Minnesota. They have played toe-to-toe at home with the Philadelphia Eagles. They're coming off a bye. They're playing at home. I think this could spell trouble for Detroit. I still want Detroit to win the game, but I wouldn't be too cocky about it.
I'm not being cocky, but where did you read Gibbs is not playing?
It was on a fantasy football site. I can't tell you at this moment.
Well, I don't believe that until I get official statements. Only why I'm saying that is I heard Dan Campbell live today on an interview on the radio on his weekly show that he does an interview. And he said that Gibbs and St. Brown were this close on actually playing last Sunday, but they felt like they could win the game without him, and they sat him. So now, unless he was just saying that just to say it, I expect Gibbs to be in the lineup on Sunday.
Gamesmanship by the head coach.
Oh, for sure. I'm not saying it's true. I'm just saying until I see official statement, I'm not going to buy it quite yet. But I still think we can win without him.
We know you're picking Detroit. Let's move to the next game. We've got the Arizona Cardinals, who have played everybody tough, at the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams have Cooper Kupp back. They've lost James Conner, Arizona has. And so I'm taking the Rams based on that.
Taking the Rams. No questions asked here.
I think it's an easy pick to say the Eagles over the Jets, but the Jets defense is, loaded. They have played really tough. They held down the Chiefs. They've held down, of course, New England ain't very good now, but they were earlier in the year. They held down, all of the teams that they have played them tough defensively. It's the offense that has to come alive. Zach Wilson has played better in the last couple of games, but I don't see him playing good enough to beat Philadelphia. I think Philadelphia wins.
I agree. Philadelphia should not lose this game unless they overlook the Jets and make critical mistakes and something crazy happens. I don't see it happening, though.
Sunday Night Football, we got a battle in New York. It's the 1-4 Giants at the 3-2 Buffalo Bills. The Giants are reeling. Buffalo comes off of a loss in London where they got embarrassed by the Jacksonville Jaguars after being the world beaters against the Miami Dolphins. I just think that Buffalo's the better team here. I can't find any reason to root or, think that the Giants are going to win. There's still no word on whether Saquon Barkley is going to be back, but it won't matter if he's in the game or not. If the offensive line can't hold up against that defensive line of the Buffalo Bills. They couldn't do it when they played against Seattle. They couldn't do it when they played against, some of the other teams that they played against. The offensive line is in shambles weekly. They couldn't hold up against San Francisco. They didn't hold up against Arizona. While they managed to come back and beat Arizona, that's their one victory. All the other games, they've been getting their butt whooped. They got blowed out by Dallas. They got blowed out by Seattle. They get blowed out by San Francisco. Like I said, no reason to think the Giants can beat the Bills.
Same here. Especially with the Giants on the questionnaire, if they're even going to have their QB or not.
The Chargers are probably going to get Austin Eckler back, and they're going to need him against the Dallas Cowboys in L.A. Cowboys, Chargers. The Cowboys, I don't fault them for losing to San Francisco. Anybody can lose to San Francisco. But to lose to Arizona, I don't know if they were looking ahead or they were, just, oh, look what we've done so far. We killed the two New York teams. That doesn't mean anything. You have to beat the teams in front of you week in and week out. I think they overlooked Arizona. Arizona played them tough, and they whipped their ass, and it exposed them for some of the things that they have, their deficiencies.
Yes.
Okay? I don't think their running game is as good as it has been because of their offensive line. You know, I think that even though they have some good running backs, they miss Ezekiel Elliott as a power back on the goal line. I think that while they brought in Brandon Cooks to be the speed receiver to go down the field, he's not Amari Cooper, who they gave away last year.
Yeah.
You know, they're missing Dalton Schultz at tight end. Yes, they've got Jake Ferguson, and he's been adequate. But Dalton Schultz is showing out in Houston that he's a really good player. And so, the offense has been in decline this year, while the defense is stellar. And I think that they can get to Justin Herbert. The Chargers are coming off a bye. Kellen Moore knows this team very well because he's the offensive coordinator who left Dallas to go to the Chargers this offseason. This is going to be a really good game, Chris. Who do you like?
I have a feeling the Chargers get a W here. They're home. Cowboys have to go back to LA or back out west for that matter. Something's just telling me the Chargers get a W here. But Cowboys, if you're good as what you say you are and think you are, you need to win this game. You go 3-3. I don't know. Does Dak lose confidence?
Back-to-back primetime games. I don't see the Cowboys losing this game. I think it'll be a really fun game to watch, but I got Dallas winning the game.
Same here. I'll go with Dallas, but I'm still not 100% sold on it. I got to see it first. Hey, I guarantee to win against when they played the Cardinals, and the Cardinals made me regret that. So,
yeah. Well, there's your preview for week number 6. Looking forward to the Thursday night game, Denver Broncos, Kansas City Chiefs. Looking forward to the Detroit Lions versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. A few of the other games that are going to be here this upcoming week.
yeah, because you get a Sunday to watching everybody because your team plays Thursday.
Do what?
I said you get a Sunday where you can watch the whole league because your team plays this Thursday.
I flip around anyway, so it doesn't matter.
See, I do, but with the Lions, if the Lions are on, I'm focused on that game until that game's over. Then I try to catch multiple games. Now, I like when the Lions go to halftime. I like the couple late games that haven't went to halftime yet, and then I'll switch around. And commercial breaks, I usually do it too, but I when my team's on, I got to watch it from start to finish. I don't like to miss nothing.
Well, there you go. There was our recap of week 5, our preview of week 6. Want to thank everybody for joining us here on the 4th&GOAL Sports Podcast. You can catch Chris and his Sunday broadcast, the Clutch Sports broadcast on Sunday mornings, right?
It's called the NFL Clutch Sunday Report.
Okay. And then you can catch me on Thursday and also Sunday morning, Picks with David on Facebook and YouTube. Don't forget to like and subscribe right here.
Exactly.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you,
See
guys.
you next Tuesday.
We'll see you guys next Tuesday. Have a good night, David. Later, guys.
Too, buddy.
We'll see you Sunday, or I'll see you Sunday. And then we'll see you back here with David next Tuesday.